Hello everyone, today is 30th of January, now it's about 10 o'clock in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for the day in which I'll share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. Later on today, towards the evening, I will publish second news update on my Patreon and Boosty pages, and if you are looking for more news from Russia, more commentary, or if you like my work and want to support this project, I hope you will consider to join our communities on Patreon or Boosty and become a Patreon for the project. That will be a great support, of course. Links are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. That's been said, let's talk about news now. And first of all, breaking news that coming from USA, from Washington. Unfortunately, tragic accident occur in Washington where passenger plane collided with a military helicopter. So regional passenger jet operated by the American Airlines subsidiary has collided with a US military helicopter near Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport on a Wednesday night, prompting the suspension of all flights and large-scale emergency response. Federal Aviation Administration (FAA) confirmed that the PSA Airlines Bombardier SRJ-700 operating American Eagle Flight 5342 en route from Wichita, Kansas was on approach to runway 33 at Reagan National when it collided with a Sikorsky H-60 helicopter around 9 p.m. local time. There were 60 passengers and 4 crew members on board of the aircraft, according to American Airlines. The US Army Black Hawk helicopter had a crew of 3 and was not carrying any VIPs, as a US defense official told CNN. Well, it seems like this H-60 helicopter was from a flight wing that services White House VIP guests, high-ranking officials, I guess. Also, several sources are reporting that this helicopter was on a training mission. According to some sources, it has turned off transponders and was almost not really visible for civilian infrastructure of the airport. I'm not an expert in this field, but I don't know. I saw this video, by the way, and I share it on my Telegram and Twitter X page. Radar of the airport seems like see both aerial vehicles quite clearly. You can see SA indicators, collision alert on a screen, and tower, control tower should alert both planes, or at least civilian plane, if it was unable to communicate with military chopper. Tower should alert at least civilian plane to divert, to change its trajectory, because both aerial vehicles were clearly visible on radar, right? At this point, reports are that according to some reports, 18 bodies were recovered from river Potomac. Both aerial vehicles after collision crashed into Potomac River. So according to some reports, 18 bodies were recovered from the river. According to other reports, 19 bodies. Search and rescue operation is underway, and let's hope staff of emergency services will find some survivors. Initially, there was a report that 4 people survived this crash, but unfortunately, I did not find any confirmation of that initial reports. But hopefully, emergency services will manage to find some survivors. Tragedy, obviously, tragic accident, and straight away, by the way, rumors and speculations began on internet. Some conspiracy theories that I'm not gonna comment, by the way. Let's wait for an investigation, what they will say had happened and why. Meanwhile, when it comes to plane crash, I want to share with you this report from RIA Novosti, which is based on Lithuanian Media 15 Min. This report is about DHL plane crash that happened in November 2024, a couple of months ago, not far away from Vilnius in Lithuania. And if you remember, this DHL plane, when this plane crashed, Lithuanian or Baltic so-called media, Western so-called media, public figures, they start spreading rumors that Russia was involved in this plane crash, that something exploded on the board of the plane. There was hysteria, isn't it, on Western media and the internet. And now we have this report that according to investigators in Lithuania, plane crash occurred due to a pilot error. And soon official findings of investigators should be published, and 15 Min find out from its sources among investigators that most likely pilot error occurred because DHL company was trying to save as much money as possible, and it was giving very little time for pilots to have a rest, and as a result of fatigue, pilots made a fatal error during their landing, and this plane crash occurred. I wonder if those public figures and their so-called media in Baltic states or in the West will apologize now to Russia for the rumors that they were spreading, for these Russophobic crazy rumors. I don't think they will apologize or even think about apologizing, but this topic once again highlights a level of the Western media in general and Western political class. Meanwhile, dear friends, RIA Novosti is reporting that Russian air defense systems on duty intercepted 5 Ukrainian drones overnight and the early hours of this morning over the Belgorod and the Bryansk regions. Also, TASS news agency is reporting that one missile was intercepted in a Kursk region. No specifics here. What kind of missile? Was it Soviet era .u that Kyiv regime might still have left, or was it Western-made, let's say, Storm Shadow or Scalp PG cruise missiles or US-made ATACMS? No specifics. Maybe during the day we will learn some more about it. But well, missile was intercepted, and no report about any casualties or more or less significant damage on the ground as a result of this yet another attempt of formerly Kyiv regime, in reality NATO, to strike deep into Russian territory. Also, dear friends, very important developments obviously are taking place in the zone of special military operation. We have official confirmation from Defense Ministry of the Russian Federation that Nova Elizaveta settlement in DPR is liberated now and is under full Russian control. And by the way, if we zoom in on the map, we can see that this Nova Elizaveta settlement is just a few kilometers away. And Russian troops, by the way, moved westwards, and now Nadeevka settlement is in a gray zone, right, where forward units of the Russian Armed Forces are operating. And if you take a look at the map, by the way, this red line is a border between DPR and Dnipropetrovsk region, right? So Russian troops are just 2 kilometers, according to some reports, just 2 kilometers away from beginning to, from Dnipropetrovsk region. And I guess if not before end of this week, most likely before end of next week, Russian troops will begin liberating people and the settlements in the Dnipropetrovsk region from Western-controlled Nazi and terrorist Kyiv regime. So this is definitely significant developments. And the Russian troops, by the way, are improving their positions all along the front line in the zone of special military operation and in the zone of counter-terrorist operation in the Kursk salient area. Kyiv regime's forces are trying to conduct counteroffensives here and there. Kyiv is sending on suicidal operations more and more it's forcefully mobilized military staff on daily basis, but yet again, initiative is in Russian hands, and in no circumstances Kiev regime and their NATO backers will be able to regain initiative anywhere on the line of contact. That's for sure. Meanwhile, dear friends, we have this quite interesting report that was initially shared with public by CNN, US propaganda outlet. And according to this report, more than 20 mercenaries from US have gone missing in Ukraine in a zone of special military operation, most likely either killed or captured by Russian forces, and this number quite possibly are significantly higher. I'm not gonna speculate who those mercenaries are. Are they really mercenaries or volunteers from US, or maybe military staff of Pentagon that was disguised as mercenaries? But in any case, obviously foreign fighters, let's say, that are fighting on behalf of Kiev regime are losing significant numbers among their personnel. Just like yesterday or day before yesterday, I was reading article when one of their fighters of Ahmad Special Forces were describing situation in Chisiv Yar, and he was saying that recently they took a stronghold in the Chisiv Yar as a result of local scale offensive operations, and all their neutralized enemy fighters had their US flags as Apaches. None of them had Ukrainian flags. All of them had US flags. So maybe there were, volunteers from US that decided that they want to fight and die for Zelensky's corrupt regime, or maybe they were military staff of Pentagon, instructors or some special ops unit or something like that. I don't know, but it was interesting report. It was interesting report from Russian fighters from Chisiv Yar. Let's continue, and this is also interesting news, dear friends, that Ukrainian so-called media in a funding crisis now after US cash cut. So multiple Ukrainian media outlets have issued their appeals for emergency cash donations after US President Donald Trump suspended Washington's foreign aid programs. USAID, the organization that funnels billions of dollars to international causes deemed worthy by Washington, has been put on hold pending reviews, and their up to 60 senior staff have reportedly been suspended on full pay. 9 out of every 10 media outlets in Ukraine have been impacted by Washington's decision. Oksana Ramanchuk, executive director of their Institute of Mass Information in Kiev, has claimed 9 out of 10, by the way. Can you imagine? And then quote from her: unfortunately, almost 90% of Ukrainian media outlets were surviving on grants. The head of the media-focused NGO told Hromodasker Radio or something. Ramanchuk described Trump's decision as a threat to a democracy in Ukraine, claiming that oligarchs may seize control of a media landscape weakened by the halt of American funding. I mean, they care about democracy so much in Q-controlled territory, isn't it? There is not a single independent media outlet, not a single one, by the way. All of them are controlled by regime, right? And by Western masters of that regime. And it's not just media, but there is not a single politician that openly can share it, opinion in the public without being afraid to, get killed or imprisoned. What democracy? And Ukraine is the last place where you're gonna start looking for democracy, right? And the basic human rights and anyways, I wonder what kind of reaction US society would have if they find out that 90% of all the propaganda outlets in Q-controlled territory are funded by them. and this is while infrastructure is collapsing, middle class in US is shrinking. I don't know, man, so much stuff to be done in US itself, right? And still Washington is spending millions and billions on such stuff, by the way. Okay, but it is interesting. It is interesting that 90%, by the way, 90% of this so-called media in Ukraine was funded by US, man. It's crazy, isn't it? TASS news agency, meanwhile, is reporting that relationships between Slovakia and the so-called Ukraine is deteriorating on daily basis, further and further. And we have this report that Slovakian Foreign Ministry summoned the ambassador of Ukraine and issued a note of a protest due to Zelensky's regime's involvement in internal affairs of Slovakia. A couple of days ago, I reported, dear friends, based on media reports here in Russia, that Slovakian security services and representatives of the ruling party government accused Ukraine of active involvement into attempts of regime change that is happening in Slovakia right now. Western-controlled so-called NGOs, so-called politicians, opposition politicians, and media are trying to destabilize country, to conduct regime change, and according to reports, Zelensky's regime is actively involved in this operation, and many Ukrainians, many citizens of this so-called Ukraine are actually participating in these demonstrations, if it's their country, if Slovakia is their country and they have any right to influence some political processes there. So Ukrainian ambassador was summoned there, not protest is given, although I don't think the regime will listen to Bratislava. They will not, obviously. And I don't think, unfortunately, I don't think Western ruling class will slow down their attempts to overthrow Roberto Fico's government there. Although Western-controlled so-called opposition failed their second time to conduct a no-confidence vote in the parliament to remove Fico, they just don't have enough supporters, right, in the parliament. And hopefully it will stay this way. It will stay this way because last thing that Slovakia right now needs is a color revolution and some psychos in the power, right? Psychos like a previous government was that quite effectively demilitarized Slovakia, right? According to current defense minister, by the way, previous government quite effectively demilitarized Slovakia. They sent so many weapons to Kiev regime that Slovakia for itself has now almost nothing left, right? Which is crazy, but that's what they did. And before I continue, dear friends, let me notice that this small independent media project from Russia is completely subscriber funded. And if you like my work, if you like my channels on YouTube, Rumble, Telegram, lately I become quite active on Twitter X also. And well, if you like my work, please consider to support this project with donation through PayPal or Boosty platforms, or by subscribing to my Patreon page and our page on Boosty. That will be great support, of course. All the links are on this video in description box and in the pinned comment, including crypto wallet. If you are good with crypto. So yes, that's been said. Let's continue with some more news. And well, you're gonna find this news quite interesting and extraordinary. Is it the right word? Syrian authorities, this terrorist regime in Syria, by the way, is asking Russia now for compensation. And this is not a joke, man. I mean, this is a report by state-run media there in Syria. So Syria's new leadership is seeking compensations from Russia to restore trust between the two nations. State-owned news agency Sana has reported the comments were reportedly made to Russian diplomats on Wednesday during their first trip to Damascus since the fall of Bashar Assad's government in December. Russia supported Assad in their war against their insurgency, against terrorism, really, which enveloped Syria in 2011. Now, led by HTC terrorist organization, the Syrian government has said that Moscow should take into account her past mistakes and respect the will of the Syrian people, according to the outlet. The Russian delegation confirmed its support for the positive changes in Syria and emphasized Moscow's role in rebuilding trust with the Syrian people through concrete measures such as compensation, reconstruction, and restoration. Damascus also allegedly demanded the extradition of former President Assad, who fled Syria following the fall of his government in late 2024 and was granted asylum in Russia. Following the meeting, Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Mikhail Bogdanov, who led the delegation, said Moscow and Damascus intend to maintain their historically stable and their mutually beneficial relationships. The talks addressed Russia's continued military presence in Syria at the Kremlin, at the Khmeimim and the Tartus bases, although no specific agreements were reached, according to Bogdanov. And so, yes, dear friends, I reported about this first visit of Russian delegation into Syria since the fall of Assad's regime, right? And I said straight away that I don't like that. I don't like that Moscow is forced basically to have some contacts with this terrorist regime in Syria, Western and Turkish-controlled terrorist regime in Syria, in Damascus. But I also acknowledge that due to presence of the Russian military bases in Syria, obviously Moscow has no option, by the way, really, but to deal with this so-called new government there, right? And hopefully, Russian leadership will manage to withdraw bases safely and securely, and then forget about existence of this quasi-state. That's what I would recommend, really, right? But we will see how things are gonna develop. But take a look at their attitude of these terrorists, by the way. They demanding compensation from Russia. Really? Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. But yet again, if it was up to me, I would already withdraw Russian bases, man. It's how many times since Bashar al-Assad's regime failed? It's several months, isn't it? Enough time to withdraw bases, right? I don't know why it's taking so long, and I don't really understand why Russia needs any bases in Syria, man, at this point. While Russia was supporting Assad's regime to defeat a terrorist onslaught, yes, at that point, presence of the bases were necessary for logistical and other reasons. But now, I don't know. I don't get it, man. Just withdraw bases and forget about existence of this quasi-state. That's it, man. That's what I would do. But yet again, no one is asking my opinion, isn't it, from the Kremlin? Anyways, interesting news, isn't it, dear friends, that these terrorists, Western financed and controlled and Turkish financed and controlled terrorists are so emboldened now that they are demanding some compensations from Russia, man. How crazy is that? Unbelievable, man. Interfax, meanwhile, is reporting that Denmark is planning to invest 1.6 billion euros into defense in Arctics, including in defense of Greenland. Okay, Denmark. If they have nothing else to do with this money, then okay, they can try to put some militaries in the Greenland, some military facilities. Will that stop Trump's administration to overthrow that island? I don't think so. But anyways, it's not just Denmark, by the way, that is trying to maintain its control over the Greenland. But look at this news. France could deploy troops to Greenland, according to foreign minister of this republic. So French foreign minister Jean-Noël Barrot has said that his country would be willing to deploy troops to Greenland, aimed the dispute between Denmark and the US over the Arctic island. US President Donald Trump first floated the idea of purchasing the territory during his first term in office and revived the idea following his return to power earlier this year. Denmark, which controls their autonomous territory, has insisted that Greenland is not for sale. In an interview with France Sud Radio on Tuesday, Barrot, French foreign minister, revealed that Paris had started discussing troop deployments with Denmark, noting, however, that Copenhagen had no desire for such a mission at the present. If Denmark calls for help, France will be there, the diplomat vowed, insisting that the European borders are sovereign, whether it's north, south, east, and west. Nobody can allow themselves to mess around with our borders. Okay, tell this to Trump, by the way, and you will find out quite quickly. So yes, I mean, this is I don't know, man. It's hard to comment seriously on this. Who this Barrett thinks he is, man? Does he understand where France is and where US is? Used to be times, by the way, in 20th century, even in the beginning of 21st century, when France had their leaders, true leaders, by the way, that were heavyweights, right, on the political arena. But for last, I don't know, 2 decades, man, France is led by some clowns, right? And you think who controls those clowns? US Secret Services? I guess so, right? So, I mean, what this person is talking about? What French troops in Greenland, by the way? What French troops in Greenland, man? I don't know. It's laughable stuff, by the way. It's laughable stuff when these quasi-states in Europe are trying to demonstrate their toughness. I mean, the world is watching these developments and laughing, right? In the West, in the collective West, there is one country that really is powerful, right? The United States. Some may argue that London still has some grab over their certain areas, or at least in the collective West, and it is true. Yes, London is still somewhat powerful, but Washington is the most powerful, right? Rest, I mean, France, Germany, Italy, Spain. I mean, who cares, man? What these countries have to say? No one even perceives these territories as a true sovereign countries at this point, right? Because they are not. Because they are just not, right? They all are client states of Washington and London. That's what it is. And this French foreign minister is trying to do what? To threaten US, by the way, with French troops in Greenland? Come on, man. I guess some officials in Pentagon did had a good laugh when they read that news. Anyways, by the way, when it comes to Greenland, and by the way, things might change. Right now, these European states are client states of Washington and London, right? But I mean, no one is saying that France or Germany or Spain or Italy cannot become truly independent, true states. Of course they can, but for this, local societies gonna wake up and regain control over their their country over their destiny, right? Will they manage to do so? That's the question, right? Will majority wake up in these countries? I don't know. It seems like there is some processes on the way, and more people realizing what is going on. More and more people is waking up, but it's not enough yet. Majority is still in sleep and don't really cares about anything at all, right? And as long as that situation continues, then no one will perceive those countries as some truly sovereign states, independent states that can do some stuff independently. No, man. Meanwhile, by the way, when it comes to Greenland, we have some interesting social study numbers. So poll reveals that 85% of Greenlanders are against joining US. Total of 85% of Greenlanders do not want the island to become part of US, according to an opinion poll conducted by the Varian social research company. Only 6% of Greenlanders are in favor of joining the US, while 9% remain undecided, the pollsters said. Interesting, 85% is against her to join US. I guess very same 85% probably wants independence, right, from Denmark. That would not surprise me at all. But question is, can we trust these polls, by the way? Can we trust any polls nowadays, really? Especially when these polls are done in the West, right? Because if you remember, there was very same pollsters, right, that were predicting defeat of Trump during his first presidential campaign, and they were predicting defeat of Trump during his second presidential campaign, right? And they were wrong, big time, isn't it? They were manipulating with the numbers, they were never honest. So therefore, when I see some poll numbers that were conducted, that coming from Western companies or institutions, I have some doubts about it. Straight away, by the way. I cannot trust it. But you tell me, dear friends, what your opinion is. Maybe in our community there are Greenlanders. Hopefully they are, and they might share their opinion, what they think is going on, and are locals in Greenland really against to join US? Would be interesting to know. Meanwhile, by the way, also interesting news here that Trump is planning to send or deport migrants to Guantanamo, a military base that US has on Cuba. So President Donald Trump has announced plans to expand detention facilities at the US naval base in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, to accommodate thousands of deported immigrants as a part of his intensified efforts to remove illegal aliens from the US soil. The initiative was revealed on Wednesday during the signing of the bipartisan Lincoln Rally Act, which mandates the detention and potential deportation of undocumented individuals accused of theft and violent crimes, even before conviction. Justifying the use of Guantanamo Bay, Trump argued that some individuals are so bad we don't even trust the countries to hold them because we don't want them coming back. So we are going to send them out to Guantanamo, Trump added, calling the facility a tough place to get out of. By the way, we have reports from Cuba itself, and Havana government of Cuba stated that they are against transformation of US military bases in some sort of concentration camp for people that will be deported from US. But yet again, I don't think Washington will listen to Havana's opinion. They are holding to Guantanamo base for so long now, and they consider it's their own territory, and they do their whatever they want, right? But yes, some some controversial decisions definitely are in place now, and I guess many people will find it difficult to support Trump on this creation of some sort of concentration camp in Guantanamo Bay, even those that are in general supportive of mass deportations, because at least for now, based on information that we have, it seems like this Guantanamo Bay gonna become some concentration camp for anybody really that U.S. government may don't like, right? They might put them there indefinitely and just forget about it. I don't know, man. I don't know. RT is also reporting that Trump's DOGE claims it's saving $1 billion per day already. So the U.S. Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, created by the President Donald Trump and led by Tesla and SpaceX CEO Elon Musk, claims it has already cut federal spending by approximately $1 billion per day. The agency announced the figure on Wednesday via its official X account, stating that it aims to reduce cost by more than $3 billion daily. DOGE was first proposed during Trump's presidential campaign last summer and later formalized as a Presidential Advisory Commission. Despite its name, their agency is not a full-fledged federal executive department, but a temporary organization focused on reducing government spendings. It aims to cut up to $2 trillion in federal expenditure by July 2026. DOGE is saving the federal government approximately $1 billion a day, mostly from stopping their hiring of people into unnecessary positions, deletion of DEI, and their stopping improper payments to foreign organizations, all consistent with their president's executive orders, their agency said, without providing further details. So, I mean, $1 billion a day, it's significant, right? It's a big deal. And if they manage to cut government spending up to $2 trillion before July 2026, well, that will be a great success on part of Trump's administration, undoubtedly. But will they be able to do so? I don't know. At this point, what we hear is, okay, DOG is saying that they are saving $1 billion a day, but same time, just yesterday or the day before, there was reports that the Pentagon's budget may be increased for another $200 billion, right? In that case, Pentagon budget will become over $1 trillion. And this additional funds supposed to go on that Iron Dome system that Trump announced recently. How many more programs will be announced in the Pentagon, in defense, for defense industry? Who knows, right? So White House may cut some spendings in certain directions, but same time, if Washington will further increase funneling money, hundreds of billions, to military industrial complex, will it help US to start really dealing with its debt and its budget deficit, which is in trillions? I don't think so. I don't know. But if you are cutting spendings here, but simultaneously increasing almost on the same level spendings on other spheres, then I don't know. It don't really looks like you are making big progress, but we will find out. We will find out. Let's see. RIA Novosti, meanwhile, is reporting that Georgian delegation will no longer work in Parliamentary Assembly of European Council, because this yet another institution for bureaucrats, basically, that does nothing of positive. This institution come up with memorandum calling Georgia to conduct early parliamentary elections. So basically, they backed their Western-controlled NGOs, so-called opposition, and so on. Right? They are also involved in this attempt to overthrow government there in Georgia, to conduct regime change, and understandably so, Georgian delegation said, you know what, we are out of here, which is an understandable decision. Let's translate this news for a little more details. So the Georgian delegation is suspending its work in the Parliamentary Assembly of Council of Europe after the resolution on holding new parliamentary elections was adopted. The head of the delegation, Deputy Speaker of the country's parliament, Teatsu Lukiani, said in a statement, the powers of Georgian parliamentary delegation of the new convocation were put to a final vote and recognized a few minutes ago. However, the document recognizing their authority is accompanied by resolution. Many reservations are unacceptable to us because they are unfair and groundless. Based on the above, we, members of the Georgian parliament delegation, by the general decision of the Georgian Dream team, Georgian Dream is the ruling party in Georgia, despite the fact of our power have been approved, we will stop working in the Parliamentary Assembly from today, Tsulukiani announced. Good for you. Good for you, man. Don't bow down to those corrupt bureaucrats in Europe. Do not retreat. Otherwise, they're gonna eat you alive. Right? So at this point, Georgian government definitely does quite a good job to protect society, to protect country from these Western assets, from potential regime change, and the transformation of Georgia into sort of a second front against Russia, which will destroy Georgia, obviously, right? And current government does quite a good job to avoid that. But more needs to be done, definitely, because these Western assets, by the way, Western assets have to be neutralized in Georgia, in Slovakia, in Hungary, in Serbia, everywhere. These Western assets have to be neutralized everywhere. Otherwise, you will have no sustainable peace. That's how it is, man. Let's continue with some more news. And well, prices on gas in Europe have reached their highest levels since the November of 2023, and at this point are on a level of $550 for 1,000 cubic meters. This is definitely not a record high, but prices are increasing, and this is, as far as I understand, this is spot price, right? Prices for customers, for households are different, and I guess much can be significantly higher. Friends from Europe can tell us what is going on with the gas prices, but if you take into account crazy policies of the Brussels and the governments of few member states, many of them, well, who would be surprised to find out that energy cost in Europe is just out of roof, out of control. RT, meanwhile, is reporting that Russian LNG export hit a new record there. So Russia exported a record 33.6 million tons of liquefied natural gas last year, more than half of which went to Europe. European market, by the way, EU market. Business Daily RBK reported on Tuesday, citing data from analytics firm Kepler. The figure represents a 4% increase from the previous record of 32.9 million tons set in 2022, the report noted. Furthermore, Russia achieved a new milestone in December, exporting 3.25 million tons of LNG, a nearly 14% increase compared to previous month, and they're 1.3% higher than previous high setter in December 2023. According to Kepler, the target The largest share of Russia's LNG exports last year came from country's Yamal LNG facility, which shipments totaling 21.1 million tons, up 6% over 2023. In contrast, export from Sakhalin-2 declined by 3.1% to 9.9 million tons. At the same time, shipments from Vysotsk home to mid-scale plant Gazprom LNG, Portovaya and Ryogaz Vostok rise by 3.4% to 2.31 million tons. Well, interesting numbers that are demonstrating that Russia is becoming more and more significant player on LNG market also. Obviously, Russia was always big player when it comes to natural gas exports, when it comes to exports of gas products, fertilizers, for example. Many people don't even know, I guess, that fertilizers are made from natural gas, right? Not just, but from natural gas also, as a result of some chemical processes, right? Obviously, Russia was a big, major player on the oil market and on market of oil products, and still is. And Russia now is gaining more and more significant positions when it comes to LNG exports, and just give it another 5-10 years, by the way, and Russia might even compete with Qatar, Australia, Qatar and Australia that are top players, obviously, when it comes to LNG, and US also, by the way. US is becoming, due to this fracking revolution, US definitely become a major player on LNG market. So interesting numbers here, but let's continue with some more news. RIA Novosti is reporting that Russian export of grain this year might reach 57 million tons, which is quite impressive, isn't it? Quite impressive. Although this number is definitely lower than the record volume that was sold the previous year, when Russia exported 72 million tons due to a record-breaking harvest in previous 2 years. But still, by the way, 57 million tons to be exported, that's quite impressive stuff. And this is just grain, by the way. When it comes to overall export of agricultural products from Russia, I mean, it's a huge, and for a reason I'm saying that as a result of diversification of Russian economy, more and more different spheres are playing more and more important role, right, for in Russia's total income. And agriculture is definitely one of the leading directions in this regard. And I don't remember exact numbers. I should check, by the way, exact numbers. But agricultural sector is closing into energy sector, by the way, when it comes to income as a result of exports, right? So yes, 57 million tons to be exported. Meanwhile, EU is planning to place tariffs on Russian fertilizers. European Union plans to impose prohibitive tariffs on certain agricultural products and fertilizers from Russia and Belarus. The European Commission has announced the bloc is seeking to reduce its reliance on Russian imports, which it claims pose a risk to food security and to support domestic agriculture. Okay, dear friend, I don't get how they're gonna support domestic agriculture when they are planning to ban Russian fertilizers. These businesses, these farms, they need fertilizers, right? They need fertilizers, and Russian fertilizers are significantly cheaper than from other exporters, right? At least because Russia is closer. And so if the farmers are forced to basically buy more expensive fertilizers, obviously their produce will become more expensive, right? And if they are already struggling on the market, because their product is too expensive, and struggles to compete with their imports from other countries, then what they gonna do after ban on Russian fertilizers? Dozens and dozens of farms just gonna go out of business, right? But I mean, tell this to Brussels bureaucrats, by the way. Do they really care about farmers in Europe or about anybody in Europe except themselves? I don't think so. And I will end this update, by the way, on this quite interesting news that Trump is asking Musk now to go and get astronauts stranded in orbit. So US President Donald Trump has asked SpaceX CEO Elon Musk to bring back two NASA astronauts, Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams, who have been stuck on the International Space Station for nearly 200 days now, instead of their originally planned 8. Return flight to Earth have been repeatedly postponed due to a combination of technical issues. Can you imagine, dear friends? These astronauts went to ICC, International Space Station, ISS, right? They went for 8 days, and they are stuck there for 200. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. They should ask Moscow, by the way, to bring them back, but for whatever reason, Washington decided not to ask Moscow, and they are waiting when SpaceX will be ready to bring these astronauts back. Okay. It's their decision, right? It's their decision, but I'm quite sure if Washington and NASA asked Roscosmos to help with the situation to bring back these astronauts, Moscow would help, and these people would be on Earth already. But anyways, now Trump is asking Musk to accelerate basically works to bring them back, and they will come back safely, hopefully, sometime in the future, but no one knows how long they will be forced to stay on ISS. It's crazy, isn't it? They should stay 8 days on International Space Station, and it's 200 days already. But stuff happens. Anyways, dear friends, this is it for now. Hopefully you will find this update informative, interesting, useful, and if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary just about anything, any topic. This is the only way we can try at least to influence algorithm, and for very same reason, if you can, please share information about my channel with your friends on internet or in real life. And finally, if you like my work, if you think I deserve to be in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support this project. All the links are on this video description box and in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Have a wonderful day and take care.